Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Face-to-face classes resume despite spike in COVID-19 cases. St. Thomas records its first murder of 22 in Seaforth. And later in sports, Everton winger close to getting Jamaican. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. Up first, as face-to-face classes resume today, there are renewed calls by the Jamaica Teachers Association for the Education Ministry to take a second look at how educators are treated. Codian Barrett reports.
In a New Year's message, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Winston Smith, called for its members to be safe in the new year amid the new Omicron variant. But with an expected fourth wave, he says it is important that relevant ministries make all the necessary resources available to all schools.
The JT is calling on the Ministries of Finance and Public Service, Health and Wellness, and Education, Youth and Information to ensure that the nation's teachers are accorded the level of support necessary for us to execute our duties to the best of our abilities.
On the matter of wage negotiations, Mr. Smith says an increase must be given that reflects that the government values the work of educators.
We, the teachers, have worked hard to ensure that the nation's children benefited from educational opportunities using the virtual modalities, and when face-to-face was possible, we did not hesitate to return to such modality, guided by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Many teachers have incurred great costs to keep the sector afloat, yet without due recognition. However, we may not continue if we are not treated much better in the new year.
In the meantime, he further adds that the issue of vaccination is a personal choice and the JTA stands in full support of its members, especially those who are not willing to take the jab on medical or religious grounds.
Our best advice in order to minimize the impact of the virus is to be vaccinated and practice all existing protocols. Likewise, I implore you colleagues to continue to encourage the parents with whom you interact to educate themselves on the benefits of being vaccinated as well as the importance of them following the safety protocols.
Codian Barrett, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, public health expert Dr. Winston Davidson is insisting parents should be allowed to decide whether their children begin face-to-face classes amid the fourth wave of COVID-19. Stakeholders also argue now is not a good time to return to the classroom. The Ministry of Education has issued a circular to its regional directors, school board chairmen and principals informing them that face-to-face instruction will resume in all pre-primary, primary and secondary level institutions. But Professor of Public Health Dr. Winston Davidson argues virtual learning should continue where there are inadequate spaces to accommodate students. He says some parents will be fearful about their children being infected with the virus, especially among the unvaccinated.
My view is that they should, in fact, continue where it is possible. Let the parents decide whether or not they wish their child to go face-to-face, and you should continue with having the provision of online schooling. But of course, the children are ordered back to school, and let us see.
Dr. Davidson believes schools could be super spreaders of the highly transmissible Omicron variant.
The reason is that children are very, very difficult to manage when it comes to social distancing and also with wearing of the masks. And we therefore must expect that once you have an outbreak of this particular variant, once it is highly transmissible, we know that wearing the mask the proper way and also have social distancing and, of course, the necessary personal hygiene of washing of hands, etc. These are very important aspects for the prevention of the spread, and especially the rate of spread in this particular virus variant is very, very high, and I expect that you're going to have an acceleration of the outbreak in schools.
There's also a call from the National Parent Teachers Association for the government to reconsider the return to classroom at this time.
And with the holidays just gone and the spike in the reported cases, I think what we should do is to wait a bit until this spike in wave subsides and go back to some closer to normalcy of where you're having just a few cases per day. There's more control, and then we can look at reopening school, I would say, in February.
In the meantime, the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools says institutions will use this week to make arrangements for the resumption of face-to-face classes. Each principal will then determine when classes can begin. Now, students across the country returned to the physical classroom today after the Ministry of Health cleared 856 schools for reopening. Our reporter Sandy Williams visited some of the schools in the corporate area and now joins us live. Sandy.
Thanks, Gio. We started pretty early today and we visited at least 3 schools in the corporate area. Now, today's reopening comes in light of the fears of a 4th wave of COVID-19, but some teachers are just happy to see the students return.
Our first stop was the Edward Siaga Primary School in Denham Town. We arrived early and saw students trickling in. Guidance counselor at the school, Royton McLaren, says the teachers are excited to see the students return to the physical classroom.
We are really elated. I want to say this to you, and any good teacher would say that. It is very hard when you go online and have to talk to 3, 4, 5 students. You see the point? You are not satisfied.
The usual morning devotion, which would see the entire school population gathering, was abandoned due to COVID-19 restrictions. So, each class had its own. And in an effort to maintain the safety protocols, Mr. McLaren says the school will be using the standard approach.
Normally, school would close at 2:30. But what we are doing now, we are going to have 3 hours. So we start at 8 o'clock and stop at 11. 11 to 12, we sanitize the classroom and everywhere. And then at 12, we have another shift up until 3 o'clock.
He says this will allow all registered students at the school to benefit from in-person classes.
So if a class of, say, 30, we are going to divide it by 2, right? And it works. It works because we had it already and it works well.
Our next stop was at the Central Branch All-Age School. It's not the school's first face-to-face resumption, as it got the green light from the Ministries of Health and Education for in-person classes from last October. However, the school has delayed reopening until tomorrow. Michael Sutherland is the principal.
For the mere fact that over the weekend, we had a holiday this weekend, we could not have prepared the school adequately for the students to be here. For example, they couldn't get to have lunch because we couldn't have purchased the items in time. So we are doing all of that today. The teachers are here though. They are, however, preparing for the students. So tomorrow, full school.
He fears physical distancing among students might be a challenge.
I don't know how it's going to work out with the physical distancing for the children because, you know, they have not seen their friends for a while and they are going to want to hug and all of that. But I am very happy that they get the chance to come out because face-to-face works best for most of our children.
We also visited the Care Bear Early Childhood Development Center in Maxfield. When we arrived, classes were already in session and the children were fully engaged and wearing their masks. Vice Principal of the institution, Donna Smith, says the children have adjusted to the new learning environment.
The children, although small, learned and got the understanding of what it is to social distance, which was the most important part of it. They also grasped the idea of coming in and enjoying the washing of hands and the sanitizing of hands. So it made our year not as hectic as we thought it would have been, but it was successful.
She adds that the children are closely monitored throughout the day to ensure they keep in line with the protocols.
So teachers are outside with students when needed for washing of hands. Teachers, along with our janitor, accompany children to the bathroom to make sure that the sanitation section of hands are taken care of.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
Jamaica's COVID-19 positivity rate has now climbed to nearly 50%. In its latest update, the Ministry of Health said 769 new cases were recorded on Sunday from 1,759 samples. This brings the overall case count to 95,946. The positivity rate now stands at 48.4%. One death was also confirmed yesterday. The death toll is now 2,477. There's also been an increase in hospitalizations. 137 persons have been hospitalized with the respiratory illness. 16 are severely ill, while 4 are critical. 124 more people have also recovered from the virus, increasing the recovery count to 65,937. There are now 3,168 active cases of COVID-19 on the island. And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. Investigations are ongoing into what led to the death of a man in Seaforth, St. Thomas on Sunday. As O'Shane Masters reports, it's the first murder for the Eastern Parish since the start of the year.
The police have been kept busy since the start of the year as criminal elements continue to run rampant island-wide. On Sunday afternoon, the community of Seaforth in St. Thomas was plunged into mourning following the shooting death of 37-year-old Jermaine Spencer, otherwise called Puss. It's understood that the murder occurred along Debtors Lane, Seaforth in the parish about 1:15 p.m. Residents told TVJ News that they heard loud explosions and later saw the deceased lying on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds to the upper body and summoned the police. PNP Councillor Caretaker for the Seaforth Division, Pasley Hill, says the community has been left devastated with the murder of Mr. Spencer.
The community right now is really in a sad place. His family is really sad. His aunt, his grandfather is crying. You know, it's really sad. And knowing that he's not somebody who really gives trouble, that from what I know, from my perspective, he's not a troublemaker.
In the meantime, Mr. Hill is calling for persons who may have information surrounding the murder to come forward.
The only way we can stem crime is to get involved. And getting involved is to speak about the things that you know is happening. All right? When you know that something went wrong, come on, talk to the police. I have met with them last week, Wednesday, trying to find a level ground whereby which we can work things out. I've met with the police officers. I've spoken to the police officers. I've spoken to some of these guys because we want to bring some form of order to this division, to this community. And today, to learn of that, I'm really saddened, and you know, I'm at a place where I don't even know where to turn.
The council caretaker is also imploring the head of the police in the parish to provide greater oversight to the community of Seaforth. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And over in St. Anne, 2 men have been charged for the murder of 34-year-old businesswoman Sue Ann Forbes in Hazelwood Bamboo in the parish in December. Her male companion was also wounded in the incident. Those charged are Everald Meredith of a St. Anne address and Orlando Robinson of a Hanover address. They were charged with murder, conspiracy to murder, illegal possession of firearm, illegal possession of ammunition, and wounding with intent. It's reported that on December 19 last year, Miss Forbes and a man had just closed their shop in the area and went into their yard when they were attacked and shot. Miss Forbes died on the spot while the man was taken to hospital. The suspects will face the St. Anne Parish Court this week. And it's now time for the Business Minute with Cody and Barrett.
The Bank of Jamaica BOJ has completed the Central Bank Digital Currency CBDC pilot. The National Commercial Bank NCB was the only institution to participate in the pilot. In October, the central bank issued $5 million worth of CBDC to NCB, marking the first issuance of central bank digital currency to a deposit-taking institution. In its test, NCB onboarded 57 customers to its digital wallet platform. The customers conducted person-to-person, cash-in and cash-out transactions through 37 accounts and completed transactions with various small merchants. And in business internationally, Turkey's annual rate of inflation has hit a 19-year high as the currency collapse sends the cost of imports soaring. According to the Turkey Statistical Institute, consumer prices soared 36% in December compared to the same month the previous year. Prices are now rising at their fastest pace since September 2002. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's party came to power later that year. The increase in prices was led by the cost of transportation soaring nearly 54% year on year and food and drink prices skyrocketing 43.8%. Household equipment and hospitality prices were also up more than 40% compared to a year ago. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody-Ann Barrett.
And it's now time for the top regional and international stories with O'Shane Masters.
A wide-scale investigation has been launched following the attempted assassination of Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry on Sunday morning. According to police reports, at least one person was killed and several others injured as Henry and his entourage left a church service that was held to commemorate the country's 218th anniversary of political independence. Further overseas, Sudanese Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok has resigned. The announcement came after 3 protesters were killed by Sudanese security forces during anti-coup demonstrations near the capital on Sunday. In a televised speech announcing his resignation, Hamdok said he is stepping down to make way, quote, for the daughters or sons, end quote, of the country to complete the transitional period. And France announced an easing of coronavirus rules for the vaccinated, shortening quarantine periods for those who test positive for COVID-19 and their contacts. The new rules came into place on Monday. Fully vaccinated people who have tested positive will have to remain isolated for 7 days compared to at least 10 days under current rules. Those who come into contact with someone who has tested positive will not be required to self-isolate as long as they are fully vaccinated. And those are the top regional and international stories. I'm O'Shane Masters.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Simon Preston.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. President of the Jamaica Football Federation, Michael Ricketts, has confirmed that they're close to securing a passport for Everton winger Demarai Gray to represent the Reggae Boys. The 25-year-old Gray qualifies to play for Jamaica through his parents. The process for Gray began last month, and Ricketts is hopeful his passport will be ready in time for the next set of World Cup qualifiers later this month.
We had actually started the process. We could very well be almost there now. He was very much under the radar, and his papers are being processed. Just like Andre Gray, he had some issues with some logistics that we really had to get sorted out. So we're still working on Demarai. A little bit of issue, but we've been working on Demarai Gray.
Gray has scored 5 goals in 15 appearances since joining Everton last year. Gray was also a member of the Leicester City team that won the English Premier League in the 2015-2016 campaign. Reggae Boys goalkeeper Dylan Barnes has joined English National League club Yeovil Town on loan from Queen's Park Rangers until the end of the season. Yeovil Town play in the 5th tier of English football. Barnes has been sent out on loan in order to get playing time, as he's yet to make his debut for QPR since joining them in 2019. Barnes made his debut for the Reggae Boys at the CONCACAF Gold Cup last year. Yeovil Town are 11th in the table on 31 points and are 7 points adrift of the League 2 playoffs. Manchester United will be looking to extend their unbeaten run to 7 games as they host Wolverhampton Wanderers in Old Trafford in action from the English Premier League this afternoon. United are 7th in the table on 31 points, while Wolves are 9th on 25 points. Kick-off is at 12:30 Jamaica time. And to cricket we go now, as South Africa reached 35 for 1 at stumps on day 1 of the second test against India in Johannesburg. Batting first, India were bowled out for 202 inside 64 overs. KL Rahul top scored with an even 50. Marco Jansen led the way with the ball with 4 for 31, while Kagiso Rabada and Dwayne Olivier took 3 wickets each. Aidan Markram was the only wicket to fall for the Proteas as he departed for 7. Mohammad Shami has taken 1 for 15 for India. India leads the 3-match test series 1-0. And that is it for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Simon Preston. Giovanni, it's over to you.
Thanks so much, Simon. I saw a very broad smile on your face reading that Manchester United story. Unbeaten run. And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.